Alright. Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi ya. As for today, we're going to continue with our use case, with our first diagram for modeling. So we used object-oriented analysis modeling, which we learned about 4 diagrams. One of it is use case diagram. We begin with use case diagram. Okay, so the tools that we're going to use for use case diagram is star UML. UML ni is the official unified modeling language. Is basically a the production that come with this notification lah. Yeah, it's a type of notification, right? So use case diagram basically is one of the behavioral diagram that shows interactions between system and its environment. So we have 2 types of UML diagram type. One is structural diagram and one is behavior diagram. So behavior diagram shows more interactions, while structure diagrams shows on the what we call it, macam structure lah, structure yang kalau macam kelas ISP550 kita belajar pasal ERD. Now that is structure diagram. Behavior ni more kepada what they can do and its interaction with the user and environment. Okay, so dalam behavioral diagrams kita ada use case diagram, activity diagram, sequence diagram. And for structural, kita ada class diagram. Kita belajar. Actually, dia ada banyak diagrams. Dan each diagrams ada dia punya purpose. Dan bergantung kepada, kalau most production, dia banyak guna this all diagrams to show their the development lah. The analysis for the development. Tapi untuk asas, kita belajar 4 diagram. Untuk di-applykan nanti. Alright. So this is another paradigm that you learn bila mana kamu dah belajar the traditional approach dalam ISP451. Now you learn another paradigm, another approach, what we call it object-oriented approach. So there are 2 types. Kalau boleh for development, sebab kamu dah didedahkan dengan 2 jenis approach ni, dicadangkanlah ya, if more often in many cases follow the disciplines of the approach that you are known for, yeah. So follow the approach. Kalau nak ikut traditional, use ERD, context diagram, DFD and so on and so forth. But then if you want to use a different approach, then you have to follow the whole diagram that used in that approach. Kalau boleh jangan mix match lah. But jangan terkejut lah, in real life dia ada mix, yeah. Some may adapt use case diagram with ERD diagram. Actually dia bukanlah kita kata totally wrong, but as long as you understand the functions of the diagram, then it's okay. Sebab ERD dia equivalent dengan class diagram. Cuma the perspective that kita lihat, class diagram more look on the behavioral, while entity ERD dia tak melihat kepada behavior. Tapi apa yang ada dalam class diagram tu kamu boleh pick up bahawa oh yang ni pun ada dalam ERD. So dia ada redundant dia kat situ ya. Alright. So learning objective basically jadi saya jelas sikit lah ya, ataupun sebabkan mudah dengar. Now the things that yang saya nak emphasize Khamis ni, especially on analysis and development, especially particular focus on your punya project, what we call it this, kita dah tahu functional and non-functional requirement. Okay, then kita akan identify the roles and the task, where the task is represented or the activity represented by the use cases, where the roles is represented by the user. Okay, and then we are using, in order to analyze or to start crafting our use case diagram, kita guna user goal technique, to identify use cases, and then kita apply the CRUD technique to validate and redefine the list of use cases, and then kita describe the notation and purpose for the for the use case diagram, and then kita draw the use case diagram by actor and by subsystem. Okay, use case model basically a collection of models that can be used to capture system requirements based on use cases with the object-oriented approach. So once you've done with the requirement and information gathering levels, you can start doing the process for analyzing to model your use case. And the diagram that we use to model use case is what we call as use case diagram. Okay, where the diagram illustrates the interactions between the system and the external systems and user. So it can be to show the interactions between users atau another external system. So it can be done as well. So dia ada dua jenis lah kat situ ada dua kategori. So next, there are the notation. So graphically describes who will use the system and in what ways the user expect to interact with the system, and then show the various user roles and how those roles use the system. Okay, so basically during requirement and non-requirement information gathering phases, we're going to do some sort of interviews, some sort of quick meeting, and a series of interviews a series of discussion, a series of presenting the discussions. So bila proses ini berlaku, most of the conversation or information that we've gathered, sometimes kita unable to capture the way the user will intentionally want to describe. So banyak bergantung kepada interpretations. So mungkin sebabkan proses maksudnya bila kita macam bercakap tapi tak sampai maksud lah. Bila kita bercakap tapi tak sampai maksud, maka wujud misinterpretation. So banyak ini berlaku, misinterpretation ni banyak berlaku during the non-functional and functional requirement information gathering. Okay. So benda ni memang lumrah lah. So that's why sometimes the user tu lagi satu mungkin misinterpretation berlaku sebab sometimes user ni kita ada banyak level. Kita ada banyak engagement. Bergantung kepada the level of engagement for the users. And sometimes users only able to describe from what they see. They only able to describe from their perspective. So jadinya bila dia hanya mampu melihat daripada sudut pandangan perspektif dia saja, kita tak nampak the wholeness of the picture. Kita tak nampak the gambaran besar lah, the big picture tu kita tak nampak. Kita cuma nampak the segmentations of the picture, and just like a puzzle, we try to arrange the pieces of puzzle tu supaya kita nampak gambaran dia. Most often it's going to be like that. Okay. So susahlah juga kita nak nampak gambaran sebenarnya setelah kita mendengar daripada sudut pandangan user. So we have to combine from their views to gain the big picture. Sometimes we get the big picture correctly, sometimes we get the big picture somewhat ada tempat yang blur-blur lah, ada loophole. So itu yang pentingnya proses requirement ni, kita dapat capai satu clarity, ya, jelaslah benda yang jelas, dan user mampu menyampaikan apa yang dia nak dengan apa yang dia maksudkan tu tercapai, dan kita faham, ya. Kita faham apa yang dia nak dan apa yang dia maksudkan, dan tak ada ambiguity, tak ada misinterpretation, dan kita dapat buatlah servisnya. As a service, we're able to achieve what they want from what they say, from what they mean. Begitulah the process. Alright, next, for use case diagram, of course, we have the most important notation dekat sini ialah one of it is use case. So use case is represent an activity that the system performs, usually in response to a request by a user. Use cases define functional requirement. So use cases kita hanya define functional requirement. So tak ada non-functional requirement represented dalam use cases, ya. So this just take note, ya. And then analysts decompose the system into a set of use cases. So based by looking at its functional decomposition. So the naming convention for use cases, kita kena guna verb nouns. Okay. Alright, we look at the first technique, the user goal techniques. Last time kita dah ada, dan this is the second time kamu dengar. So the user goal techniques is a specific step or the specific techniques we use to identify use cases for your modeling. For your modeling, fasa modeling untuk hasilkan use case diagram. Right? Ataupun untuk hasilkan use case diagram untuk sistem baru kamu, untuk sistem kamu lah. And then number 2, classify the potential user in terms of their functional role. So get the list of potential users in terms of their functional role first. Get the list of it. Contohnya ada bahagian shipping, bahagian marketing, bahagian sales. Step number 3, further classify potential users by organizational level. Sebab apa? So each of the levels dia ada job specification dia. Dia ada job description dia dan dia ada job specification dia. And a certain level ada decision making dia. So certain level hanya ada task-task tertentu yang dia buat. So we have to know. Sometimes because why? Decision making tu dia ada authority dia. Contohnya approval. Mana level yang boleh buat approval? Verification, verify, process. Siapa yang dibenarkan untuk verify the process? So dia selalunya organizational level tu dia ada job description seperti itu, ya. Number 4, for each types of user, interview them to find a list of specific goals that they will have when using the new system. So you get the specific goals. Itu yang tadi kita balik kepada gambar yang ada pokok-pokok tadi tu, supaya dalam interview tu we get what user meant. Kita dapatkan apa yang user nak dan benar-benar maksudkan. So nak capture benda tu bukan benda yang mudah, ya. Especially during communication, kita banyak salah faham, salah interpretation, salah dengar, salah guna ayat. Pun ada, biasa tu manusia. Alright. And then kita kena tengok jugalah current goals and innovative functions to add value. Why? To add value ni kena ada, elemen add value ni kena ada sebab untuk sustainability. Sebab sometimes sistem tu yang kita buat sekarang ni, sometimes sekejap je nanti ada berlakunya perubahan. Ada berlakunya perubahan. So perubahan tu kita nak add up lagi. Sometimes itu yang menyebabkan cost bertambah. So kalau boleh, yang maksudkan add value tu, bila kita offer our service to the user to solve their problem by using this kind of approach, maka it gives some sort of meaningful aspect of it. So you can sustain for a longer time in using the system. tak ada banyak perubahan lah, tak ada banyak changes. Sebab changes is inevitable. Tapi you can sustain, the system can sustain by capturing and all the potential, what we call it, all the potential changes tu supaya it jadi meaningful. Okay? So that is add value. Alright, nanti going to have a better word for that lah. Yeah, better words for that. Number 5, create a list of preliminary use cases organized by types of user. So kena dapatkan senarai dulu, senarai role, senarai use cases dalam bentuk list. Number 6, look for duplicates with similar use cases, names and resolve inconsistency. Yang ini adalah proses yang sangat penting ataupun step yang penting juga supaya tak ada duplication. And then sometimes the task involve more than one role. Tu yang kena tengok tu. Sebab kat situlah dia punya complexity dia. Nanti. 7, identify where different types of users need the same use cases. So that's why kita kena look tadi tu. Sebab kita akan tengok relationship. Yeah. Sebab relationship tu shows the behavior of interaction antara use cases. Number 8, review the complete list with each type of users and then with interest stakeholders. Kena review lah, kena check, kena polish. Supaya apa yang kita listkan tadi tu adalah accurate. Okay, so setiap use cases and roles kena ada description. So ini adalah contoh tables yang kita akan letak dalam dokumen kita on how kita describe our use cases yang kita dah identify for our project. Okay, so the description for easy reading or easy categorization or classification, kita boleh buat dalam bentuk table. Tapi table ni ada dia punya numbering dia nanti dalam specification kita nanti, requirement and specification kita nanti. So we have to describe each of the use cases and what they do. So that's why use cases dekat tepi ni, the naming convention to it must follow. The verb plus verbs, nouns plus verbs. And this is where we describe our use cases. So dalam salah satu project description, final project report kamu mesti ada this types of description. So now we look at the symbols or notation. So saya tak pasti kita dah sampai sini ke tidak hari tu. So use case symbols ataupun notation, basically we have a sticky guy here, sticky figure here. We have a line here. And then a line ni dia ada beberapa type lines with arrow-headed. Arrowhead. Kalau yang macam ni dia generic, dia tak ada arrowhead pun boleh juga. Okay. So actor is a stick figure, ada dalam style UML feature ni. Usually meaning an actual person using the system. So it describes the role. Who are the person or who are the role? Shipping clerk. Okay. What shipping clerk do? So kita refer kepada this use case. So it ship items. Okay, it ships items. So the connecting line to show which actors participate in use cases. So we have to identify, so this one clerk participate in these use cases. But probably we have another actor that also participate in the use cases. The third notation is actually the automation boundaries. Which automation boundaries that we have, so that the development reflects the boundaries, the automation boundaries. So kena adalah 3 benda ni at least. So now dalam use cases, dalam style UML dia ada detail sikit lah. Dia ada detail sikit. Dia mana dia ada actor yang di-encapsulatekan dalam yang diikat dengan arrow ni. Arrow ni. So kita tengok the first symbol, the first notation, actor, an actor. So an actor is a person or system that derives benefit from and is external to the subject. It can be a system or a person, or role. It's depicted as either a stick figure by default, or if a non-human actor is involved, it's a rectangle with actor. It's in alternative. It's an alternative. Okay. Uh, so it's an event lah. Kalau dalam event tu dia dalam buat bentuk dalam bentuk ni ya. So it's labeled as its role, can be associated with other actors using specialization and superclass association, denoted by an arrow with a hollow arrowhead, is placed outside the subject boundaries. Aktor ni terletak luar di bahagian automated boundaries tadi. Number 2, use case. This is the use case, the oval shape here, represent a major piece of system functionalities. So once you have your functionalities, macam hari tu mungkin ada 7 functionality. So I expect ada 7 oval shape ni. Yeah. So can extend or can be include. Dia ada 2 jenis, extend or include. Is placed inside the system boundaries and is labeled with a descripting verb noun phrase. Yeah. The third one is subject boundaries. Subject boundaries includes the name of the subject inside or on top. Okay. The subject represents the scope of the subject. Okay. Example here, a system or individual business process. So the subject boundary itu menunjukkan scope functionality of that particular system. An association relationship, kita ada links and actor with the use cases with which it's interact. Dia ada line. So, and include ni tadi, kita ada extend ni tadi, and include ni tadi. So, and include represent the inclusions of the functionality of one use case within another. Has an arrow drawn from the base case to the use case. So, this is to show some inclusions from one use cases to another use cases. So, arrow-headed tu based on base use cases menunjuk kepada use cases. As for extend relationship pula, then kita ada include ni sekali untuk nama dia. For extend relationship represent the expansion of the use case to include operational behavior. So the extension of the use case untuk kita masukkan optional behavior. Ada optional types, ada optional behavior. Has an arrow drawn from the extension use cases to the base use cases. So dekat sini you have to identify which use case yang menjadi base cases. Kalau nak guna include dan juga extend. And the next types is a generalization relationship. Saya tak pasti masa kamu belajar OOP dulu, kelas, ada tak belajar tentang use class diagram sedikit? Kalau tak pun pasal inheritance, belajar tak? Kelas?
Inheritance ada madam, tapi use case diagram tak ada.
Generalization relationship faham tak?
Generalizations, saya rasa lama dah tak ingat.
Sebab kalau belajar pasal inheritance, definitely kamu belajar types of association kan. So mungkin pernah dengar lah pasal types of association ni. One of it is generalization. So generalization is represent a specialized use case to generalize one and has arrow down from to the specialized use cases to use case base to the base use case. Mungkin tak ada kot inheritance ada belajar, tapi mungkin association relationship ni mungkin tak ada. Saya pun tak tengok sampai takat mana OP kamu belajar untuk apply this notation ni. So ini adalah contoh. This quite extensive lah. This quite extensive. of a use case diagram. Okay. So you can see the sticky man, how many are they? Usually the sticky mans are listed according to their roles. So contohnya customers usually on the left side, it shows the front end lah, whereby this one here shows the back end of the types role uh, of the system. So dekat sini kita ada levels of organization levels of each roles, and how that reflects their job description or job scope. Contohnya kita ada a customer service representative, store sales representative, because it come from two different functional department kan, and the third one is the management. So we have three different types of functional departments that also involved in this system. Okay. And then of course on each boundaries ni you give a name to it. Okay. You give the name to it. So you can see how many use cases here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's quite an extensive use cases. Okay. So contoh dekat sini the naming ni, for example, the first use case ni kita ada create or update customer account. The second use case, create and update customer accounts. It involves customer, and also it involves customer service and store sales representative. So meaning these two roles also engage in this use case. Okay, but the request friend link up, reply to friend link up, view mountain bugs, browse messages are only associated with the customer. Okay. Whereby the management engage in ataupun participate lah is the correct word, process account adjustments, and the next one is also all from the use cases that participated by the customer. Okay. So here is one example of use cases. So how many use case diagrams can we have? In general, we have one use case diagram, but you can also show some details of the use case diagram if required. Not all, but probably one or two that have more tasks that you need to visualize and represent the use cases. Sebab that is the behavior of the system. Use only when it's related to the behavior of the system. Okay. So ini salah satu contoh. Another different, another types of sama je. Cuma bezanya dekat sini one customer. So one customer acts as a sticky man there, and other use cases there. Kalau macam ni saya nampak, this is not yet the level of it can be represent, maksudnya customer participate in all of these use cases activities or use cases activities. Sales subsystem untuk view customer. So you can show this like this. So you have to hasilkan contohnya macam ni lah, yang macam ni ataupun yang macam ni. You make sure you have more than one sticky man, not just customer. Sebab sistem selalunya dia ada front end, dia ada back end. So back end tu itu yang roles yang berkaitan dengan siapa yang menguruskan sistem tu. Okay, the customer is the front end. Okay, kalau dekat sini kita lihat bahawa the customer service representative here engage or participate in all use cases that involve. So does with store sales representatives. Okay. This is for sales subsystem punya use case diagram. this is where we want to include relationship. We want to add, or we want to use the include relationship. So it's include relationships is a relationship between use cases where one use cases is stereotypically intended within the other use case, like called a subroutine. Yeah? Where the arrow points to subroutine. So kita tengok dekat mana base use case dan dekat mana yang kita nak include kan ya. So inilah contoh. So kita guna includes dengan excludes bila mana satu use cases engage ataupun participate ataupun ada association dengan another use cases. Okay. So for fill shopping cart, for fill shopping carts, you must have these three subroutine, which are search for item, view product comments and rating, view accessory combinations. Okay, so that is how we use include. Excludes ada dia punya exclude lah, tapi tak contoh lah kat sini. Okay, so use case diagram. Dia tak tunjuk CRUD tu apa ya. Dalam slide ni tak tunjuk kat CRUD. Okay, use case diagram step. Before we end the bahagian ni, before we end the use case diagram, identify all stakeholders and users who would benefit by seeing a use case diagram. Number 2, determine what each stakeholders and or user needs to review in a use case diagram. For example, each subsystems, for each type of user, for use cases that are of interest. So we have to review them all. Tiga-tiga benda ni lah. Number 3, for each potential communication need, select the use cases and actors to show and draw the use cases diagram. There are many software packages that can be used to draw use cases diagram. Dia ada several ya. Tapi saya recommend guna Star UML lah. So you Google je, then you will get the tools. Carefully, jadi yang paling simple dan yang paling kompleks lah. So kita guna Star UML that can offer a basic of a use case diagram. Number 4, carefully name each use case diagram, and then note how and when the diagram should be used to review the use cases with stakeholders and user. Okay. A summary for this diagram, for this part. Modeling functional requirement as part of a subsystem of a system analyst. So kita dalam fasa analisa. So modeling is part of fasa analysis. So banyak diagram yang kita hasilkan. Like hasil macam ni tadi kita panggil model lah, artifact modeling. This is artifact modeling. Yang kita hasilkan. Use cases are the functions identified. So you have to look at the functionality. Kamu dah dapat masa present proposal hari itu, kamu dah present you punya functional requirement. So you dah boleh dapatkan list untuk each of the automated system yang kamu nak buat tu. So you dapat identify siapa role dia dan dapat list task for use cases yang ada. The third one, 2 techniques for identifying use cases are the user goal technique, which is the step, and the event decomposition techniques. Event composition techniques ni yang mana ya? Kejap ya. Mungkin kita ada events, tapi kita apply events composition ya. It doesn't show event decomposition techniques. But then event decomposition techniques ni we can use it for more detailed analysis we want to like macam kalau di FD pun kita ada level 0. Level 0 tu mesti kita kena tunjuk. Level 1 tu kita guna bila kita nak describe each of the data flow tu ada dia punya task dia lagi. You want to be detail. Level 2 lagi detail menunjukkan that specific level 1 tu kita detailkan lagi. The third one, the fourth one, the user go techniques begins with identifying end user, call actors, and asking what specific goals they have when interacting the system. So by now, ni lagi kita cakap pasal CRUD tadi of course, use cases descriptions is written, like kita usually kita written dalam table format. The CRUD technique is used to validate and to refine the use cases identified. Yang ni saya kena check balik lah CRUD ni. CRUD technique ni macam mana maksud dia. The use case diagram. The use case diagram is the UML diagram used to show the use cases and the actor. So it is a standard, and the standard is produced by OMG. We are OMG, UML daripada OMG. So nama dia Unified Modeling Language, which is the modeling language that you use dalam object-oriented approach. So macam ERD jugalah. Standard apa yang kita nak pakai dalam ERD. Soalnya kita pakai Chen punya standard kan, format. The fourth one, the next one is use case diagram shows the actors and automation boundaries. Kita boleh guna include and exclude. A variety of use cases diagrams are drawn depending on the representation needs of the analysis. So different product has different, probably similar, but some domain may add up ataupun may need more than different domains. Requirement validation concerns with demonstrating that the requirements define the system that the customer really want. So hopefully dalam proses kita capture requirement, functional requirement, we get that information as accurate as can be. Sebab kalau tak nanti dia akan continue. Alright, so basically that is use case diagram. Nanti saya check balik what is CRUD dia. Adakah CRUD teknik ni also sama dengan CRUD yang terms yang kita selalu pakai untuk development. Nanti saya check balik. Confirmkan yang tu. Sebab rasa dalam slide ni tak ada yang cakap pasal CRUD pun. Okay. Alright, ada soalan tak until now? Sebab saya nak nanti saya untuk yang rakaman ni spesifik untuk class diagram kita akan buat next. So boleh kita take a break kalau ada sebelum kita take a break ada soalan tak? Okay, kalau tak ada soalan, kita end the session. Kita akan mula balik dalam pukul 9 sekarang, kalau ikutkan jam saya ni 8.55. So saya break 10 minit before another sessions of GMAT untuk class diagram pula. Boleh ya?
Boleh, madam.
Okay, make sure you dah click attendance Alright, so kita boleh leave this session. Nanti 9.10 kita mula untuk class diagram pula. Alright class, take a break dulu ya.